concede that you have these unhappy endings from time to time. Why don't you just go for like a serial monogamy kind of a thing and just do that? What's the difference?
Well, I think, number one, no one gets married thinking they're going to get divorced. I'm sure Tom will agree with me. I've never, ever in my life...
Especially when you look at how hard it is to get divorced in California.
I can't argue that. I can't argue that, but I find it hard to... It's hard for me to really fight you on that because I've never been married. But it's hard for me to believe that when people get married, in the back of their mind, they're not thinking, I can get out of this if I have to. It's hard for me to believe that.
I know it is, but you know what? That thought never, believe it or not, ever crossed my mind. Especially, well, I mean...
All 4 times.
I can't even count the first time because I was so young. I was 20 years old. I had no idea what I was doing. I did not even want to get married. I was talked into it and frightened and...
See, that must have been weird. So you got talked into getting married. You didn't want to do it, and in the back of your mind, you were really thinking, I can never get out of this, so for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to do something I don't want to do? You actually did that?
That's who I was at 20. That's who I was.
Listen, you go through a divorce one time, Joe, and you won't want to do it again.
You won't want to do it.
No, it's
Believe
nasty.
Me,
it's very nasty.
And it's especially nasty because people bring it up for the rest of your life. I mean, I'm still explaining my personal life, and my personal life has been very conservative, in my opinion. And I know people who go out and they sleep with somebody once and they, meet somebody at a bar. I've never even done that. I've never picked up anyone. But those people will never be criticized. But if you've been legally divorced, that is something that people can count on their fingers. And that hurts. And it hurts me to have people bring it up again. I understand that that's the way society is. I'm in the public eye.
I can understand that, and I give you that. In other words, because you've been married, now you've been divorced, and that's supposed to be some big failure where everybody else isn't.
Didn't even feel love enough or committed enough to get married. I'm punished for having believed in marriage.
The one woman that I have really been serious about since I got divorced...
This is some questions I was going to ask you at 5. Yeah.
All right, we'll get into this. The one woman I was really in love with since I got divorced blew me off and said I was damaged goods.
Yep.
Said I was married too many times.
Yeah, we discussed this. I know who you're talking about.
I mean,
that's awful.
So, I mean, you tell the truth. You lay it all on the line. You tell everything about yourself. I mean, some women say, oh, you men don't open up. They don't talk. Well, I talk, man. That's all I do is talk. And I lay it all out, and what do I get back? I'm damaged goods.
Because you were married. Because
I was married and divorced 3 times. As if it would have been healthier to stay with a manic depressive who sits on the sofa all day long and won't get up and won't pick up the newspapers. That would be healthier than getting divorced and feeling good about myself? I don't think so.
And in my opinion, a man like Tom, who has been through it, has learned from his mistakes, understands more about what makes a relationship work, and is going to be a better husband than somebody who's blindly walking into it or who's never made a commitment.
So the 4 times that you've done it, you've walked into it saying, this is the real thing?
Absolutely.
It just 4 times just didn't happen to work. Tom, same thing. 3 times it just didn't work.
Right.
Okay, we're going to take a break here for traffic in just a second.
Tom and I are going to run out and get married during the break.
Yeah, maybe you guys want to
They're going to Vegas. They'll be right back.
You're both single.
We will all be back with more of the Meeting of the Mouths right after we check on traffic with Mark Dennis in the KFI Traffic Center.
Let's check some of the slow spots out here. First on the 605 freeway southbound, you're going to find it slow from well at about Whittier or so down toward Firestone where that earlier accident's been clearing. Harbor Freeway southbound starting to ease up, but actually it starts back at about the Pasadena Freeway southbound near Stadium Way to 4th Street. And then on the Long Beach Freeway southbound around Olympic or so to...
It is 3:20, 20 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock, and this is the Meeting of the Mouths. I'm Tracy Miller, along with me, Joe Crummey, Rush Limbaugh, Dr. Laura Schlessinger, Dr. Barbara DeAngelis, and the Honorable Tom Leykis, and we're all here together talking about the questions. Now, I'm bearing no responsibility for any of these questions. I want you guys to know. I just jotted them down. You can see here. Here's a scroll. They're actually scribbled here. I've got an interesting one here. For Tom, it says, why does Tom have a 4-to-1 ratio of guests that agree with him?
He's a kid. Prove it.
My response is prove it. Right, exactly.
4-to-1 ratio. This guy has been...
That's not true. That's not true.
Or callers, for that matter.
No, I don't think that's
true. I mean, see, above all, and this is what people who listen to the talk shows don't understand. I'm a showman, and I think most talk show hosts are showmen first. And it's not interesting when the talk show host goes on, and there are talk show hosts in Los Angeles who do shows like this where every call is, I agree with everything you say, and I love everything about you, and I love every guest, and the host has guests who agree with his particular political persuasion. That's boring. An interesting show is where somebody's on who's the exact opposite, who I can spar with, or guests who can spar with each other.
Or blow them up.
Or callers I can blow up, or that's what's interesting. I don't want people calling up and stroking me, and if you set a stopwatch on it, you would probably see that people who call in to agree get the bum's rush on my show. Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Rush has been accused of that, though, haven't you, Rush, of having people on who only people who agree with you on?
Yeah, you always get accused of that, but it isn't true. Tom's right. This is a performance. I screen the show very, very tightly, but not as to whether somebody agrees or disagrees. I screen it, or try to screen it, to get people who are going to be the best callers, and there are subjects I screen out. There are topics I don't want to hear about, or there are certain angles people are going to take on topics that I don't want. But in general, when you do an open line show, you take what you get. I have trouble finding people who disagree. That's how correct I am.
No. I find it awful. I want to bring this up now. So I find it awfully suspicious, though, and I'm sure the conspiracy theorists will agree on this. I find it awfully suspicious that you will never discuss the Trilateral Commission on your program. Why won't you do that? And who is this EIB network anyway?
EIB?
And who is telling you what to do?
Is the funding coming from for EIB?
That's right. I gotta wonder about that.
EIB anything like the CIA?
No.
I mean, seriously.
Anytime they try to call about the Trilateral Commission or the Council on Foreign Relations,
EIB, he hangs
them up.
That's right.
Hangs up on them, doesn't let them on.
Well, I don't hang up on them, but I disconnect them, and I tell them that they've unsuccessfully made it past the screener and shouldn't have. Yeah. That it's a topic that is not allowed.
Mr. EIB is standing in the next room going, no, don't take this one, no.
Are the Rockefellers behind the EIB? The Rockefellers, is he Mr. EIB?
Kissinger's.
Yes. They're all the same. They're all the same.
Kissinger's.
They're all the same.
Now, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm just going to read a few of these, and you don't have to even answer them, but I just want to give you an idea of what some of the people want to know about you guys, okay? Now,
extra questions.
Most of them are for Tom and Rush, all right? They seem to be the ones that got the most questions, but we have, who is the best-dressed and best-looking talk show hostess? We refuse to answer this.
We've settled who the best host is.
Hostess.
Yes.
You mean on an ongoing basis?
No, this is based on the fact that Joe's been advertising himself for a long time as the best-looking talk show host.
I am, and I'll say out of everybody, I'm the best-looking of everybody.
Yeah,
but if you want a subgroup of women, I say everybody.
He says everybody.
And I say there's no man's body that can look better than a great woman's body.
It depends upon what sex you are.
There you have
Usually.
I'd say it's you in a close tie with Terry Ray, because you guys come in dressed up every day. I'm usually here in sweats and sneakers.
Oh, listen, thank you very much, but I certainly wasn't looking for that. I didn't even want to answer the question.
But she
raised it, though.
I was just kind of reopened it.
I didn't
Tracy the cheetah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Or was that the snake?
She's never going to live that down, is she?
All right. We are getting some questions here. We're going to tell you some of the questions coming up on my screen, even as we speak. How about that? If I can't come up with some good ones on these sheets, how about that?
Are there some good ones on the sheet?
There's no such thing as a bad question. Just ask the questions.
Well, there's several. Okay. Here's one. Okay. Why is Leykis still overweight after 2 years of vegetarianism?
I'll tell you the reason. Because I was 265 pounds when I became a vegetarian.
Wow,
no
you
kidding.
were?
Yes, I was.
How much do you weigh now?
193.
Let me tell you something. I met you, Tom, about almost exactly 2 years ago today.
I was a balloon.
And you not only dressed really weird 2 years ago, but you had slimmed down quite a bit.
Joe, you know what's so funny? You remember when we first met Tom? It was kind of like the Maytag repairman. You know, he used to wear his pants real low. And he'd bend over every once in a while, and we'd learn more about him.
Very nice.
You're bad, Tracy, bad.
But the real truth is, and I'm glad someone asked that question. It's because unlike when you go on one of these starvation diets or the grapefruit diet or the water diet, if you're going to lose weight forever, you lose about a half pound or a pound a week. That's all.
And I bet that as wonderful as Tom is on the radio, that Tom doesn't exercise very much. I bet.
You don't exercise much?
Truth be told, I didn't until recently, and I have an exercise bike now.
Oh, good.
And
That's what's going to burn. That's what's going to burn the fat off.
100 push-ups every day with his lips.
There you go. Very nice.
Okay. All right. Now, there's a couple of controversial questions they want us to get on different topics, but I don't know if you want to deal with those. Rush, what is your background, and how did you come to be so wise?
Because he's a spotted owl, that's why.
Rush was calling in from his hotel room. Didn't he?
No, Rush flew his mom out.
What time did that question get phoned in? Was I here yet?
You were here. Of course. And I think I saw your lips moving.
There's no answer to that. What's my background? We don't have time for that.
We don't have time for that. Okay. If Rush says knowledge...
Sounds suspicious.
He really wanted you to press him on that. He really
let's
did.
get this straight. You won't talk about his background. No trilateral commission on the program.
EIB,
and who's the EIB?
CIA, EIB, CIA.
Yeah, there's a dossier somewhere that will open this
in Washington.
Wide
You'll never see it. It'll be buried for 75 years.
It'll be in the archives. That's right. Kennedy's brain.
Yeah, that's right. The Kennedy files.
I got two for Dr. Laura, actually, and they're both quite personal. One is, how old are you?
43.
Okay, there you go, for the person who wanted to know. The other one, I didn't quite understand. Something about a condition called CFG or CS, some three-letter condition or something, and they want to know if you have it.
Rush has EIB. What do you have?
I'm serious, Laura. It must have been something you were talking about. It was probably a fertility thing you were discussing one day, I think.
Look at the look.
They want to know what infertility process I went through.
Yes,
probably.
that might have been.
Yeah, my tubes were roto-rooted out.
Yeah, okay.
Really? Well, let's talk about that.
That's the way, and away go troubles down the line.
Were they blocked?
Yes.
With what?
Wow.
Well, when I was 30, I was thoroughly committed to the proposition that I shall not have children, so I had little bands put on the tube.
Does that mean they were tied?
Oh.
Yeah, but bands were put on because I wanted to give myself the option, just in case I went nuts and changed my mind, to do so.
Ooh,
and 5 years later, I had to have a baby or die.
As opposed to
your mind
what?
changes.
You had like rubber bands on your tubes?
Well, they can cut, cauterize, separate,
that's the end
take
of the ball
out,
game, right
and then
there.
That's the end of the ball game.
Okay.
I didn't want to end the ball game.
So
when I was 35, I decided that I had made a mistake. So I had it reversed, which was the most horrendous experience, and then it took 3 years to make the world's most perfect kid next to yours of
She had that product. It was called, I can't believe it's a ligation. Do you ever hear one of these?
Can I ask you, may I ask you a question? Maybe this is the wrong thing to ask.
Go ahead.
Is there a scar involved here or not?
No.
Not that you can see.
Well, that's what I'm curious. Oh, now I know how they did it. I'm just curious. That's all I want to know.
No, not through the belly button. It's just that you can't see the scar, and never mind.
All right,
Boy, Dr. Barber has a question. Does the government contribute to the country's low self-esteem?
I love it.
I didn't make it up.
It is because of the country's low self-esteem.
That's hysterical.
Can you answer that in 30 seconds or less, Barbara?
No.
No. Okay, fine.
That was a wise answer.
We have several other questions, not only on the screen, but in my hot little hands from you listeners, and we'll be back with more of them. But first, we have to take a break for news, and we have my bud, Terry Ray Elmer, in the KFI News Center, standing by with all the news you need to know. Hi, Terry.
Hi, Trace. A security guard who allegedly admitted setting the multi-million into a...
I feel like I ought to be introducing the news. And here's the news now. This is 3:34 now on KFI AM 640, and this is the Meeting of the Mouths. I'm Tracy Miller. The Mouths are with me, and they are Joe Crummey, Rush Limbaugh, Dr. Laura Schlessinger, Dr. Barbara DeAngelis, and Tom Leykis. Yes. We have been taking not really your phone calls. What we're doing is we're just speaking what you are telling us as far as what you want to know about these people, and I'll give you a couple more. Okay? Let's see here. How about Barbara, Dr. Barbara DeAngelis? Are you, Clarissa from San Diego, by the way, wants to know, are you still going out with Jeffrey, and are you going to marry him?
Can we get the music in the background off so I don't feel like I'm on the dating game? Yes, I am going out with Jeffrey, who is a chiropractor, and we've been together for almost 2 years. Am I going to marry him? I don't know. Based on our conversation from before, we talked about this at the break. This is the first time in my life, and I'm almost 40, that I have not met somebody and been thinking from day one, are we going to get married? Are we going to get married? Are you the right person? I am just in the moment, having a wonderful time, and the healthiest relationship I've ever had. I don't know. But the truth is, when I see these wedding ring commercials on TV, I cry.
Oh,
I still cry.
That's so girl-like of you.
So girl-like of me?
Yes,
Well, boys don't cry at those It's very genetically conditioned.
We cry when you get the bill.
And by the way, you know what I would like to talk about at some point today?
Yes.
I think this would be a great topic. Do you think that buying a woman a diamond engagement ring is acceptable or not acceptable? That's something that we should talk about at some point.
Why would it not be acceptable?
Because some men think that spending 3 months or 4 months' salary on a little tiny piece of rock that the woman is walking around showing everybody is not acceptable.
I say it is acceptable if, like in your case, with Tom's case, if you're going to continue to get married, you just pass that ring along. See, okay, buy one ring. See, because it could get expensive.
Let me tell you what happens.
From experience, how much money he spent on said rings over the past few years.
Let me tell you what happens from my experience. See, if you get the kind of prenuptial agreement that I get, generally rings are used to hawk later on so that they can pay their moving expenses when they move on to the next relationship.
That's very, very romantic of you.
Absolutely true. So.
I'm not sure, Barbara, I still understand. What's the sin?
Because of 3 months of your salary.
It's not a sin. It's that
I know what you're talking about.
You hear women do this all the time. They say, did you get engaged? Did he give you a ring?
Right.
How big is the ring?
Right.
I hear women saying things which bother me, like, this ring is too small. I wanted a bigger ring. How big a ring is he going to get you? And men saying, I don't like diamonds. Why get her that? It's a waste of money. Why don't we use the money that I would normally use for the ring and buy a down payment on a condo or something else? And in other words, is it worth spending...
well, isn't that
all that
up
money
to the
on a ring?
2 people involved?
It is, but I thought I'd like to hear your opinions on it.
Rush, how much money you think you've spent over the years on such rings?
You bought 2 rings, did you not? You bought 2 rings?
Yeah, I have.
Maybe you bought more.
Well, let's see.
And they were both accepted.
First time was $285.
Big spending.
And that was getting a deal.
Was that a down payment or that?
And there was no payment required until May, right?
She was worth it, though, right?
That would have been, I was 27.
And that was cubic zirconia.
She was worth every cent.
That was before the Home Shopping Club.
Yeah. And then I guess the second ring was probably maybe $4,000.
Whoa.
No,
you're getting up to a substantial. Now, if you met a woman...
The two together, there was an engagement ring in there, so the two together.
If you met a woman... in the near future, and you fell in love, and you decided to get married, because we know you would never live in sin with somebody. If you decided to get married, would you...
I'm amazed at what people think they know about me.
You would live with someone without getting married?
I have on 2 occasions. I have twice, yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that in your opinion?
Was that while you were married? I unplugged you. I didn't mean to do that. I unplugged your headphones. I was just playing with this. I'm sorry.
I don't think I would do it again for the same reasons that you're not. I've done it twice, and first 2 really was to play house. It was not for any other reason.
Now, if you met a woman,
it was just to experience it.
What about those traditional family values, though?
Right.
Well, they're thriving. They are thriving and dominate. They do. Yes.
Right.
They do.
Now what? Yes. They do.
But if you met a woman and you wanted to, I'm saving you, Rush. You owe me one. If you met a woman and wanted to marry her, would you buy a ring in advance and propose to her one evening and give her the ring? No. What would you do?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if the ring would be an automatic part of the proposal or not, but I would generally, if she wanted one, after the proposal had been made, and if she had accepted one, then I would acquiesce if she wanted one. If she didn't want one, it wasn't any big deal.
Would you get a prenuptial agreement?
Now, yes, absolutely. No question about it.
Let's talk about prenuptial agreements.
All right, I've got another question. I've got a great question for Dr. Laura just came over the screen here. They want to know, is Dr. Laura really married to Bill Balance?
Actually, that would have been an honor. He's a great guy. He was my mentor in radio. He literally discovered me on the phones and brought me onto his show.
You were a caller, too?
Yes, to the Bill Balance Show.
Okay.
Why were you a caller?
I came out from New York.
Callers are taking over this business.
Do you know that? Come on.
And callers who are doctors. I mean, there you go.
I came out to California, could not believe what was going on radio out here, because I was from New York, and it was conservative stuff. And I called his show, answered the question. But the conversation kept going, and my background and what I was doing, teaching at SC, all came out. And they brought me in for an interview and put me on with him once a week. Tony Grant was there once a week.
This is when he had the Feminine Forum?
No, this is when he was on another station.
Yes.
There are no other stations for KFI.
Well, that's true now, but no, he was just a dear friend and a wonderful mentor, and very proud of having been associated with him.
Now, I just want to ask Joe. Joe?
Yes.
Have you ever given a woman a ring?
No.
If you met a woman, would you, if you decided to get married, give her a ring?
Would I give her a ring? I'm not too high on marriage right now, so I don't see the ring thing happening really soon.
See the ring thing.
Why are you not high on marriage right now?
Right now, because I don't want to be married.
I thought, didn't somebody say you wanted to be married and make little ones?
Yeah,
that's coming, but not now.
I was saying that he
No, my topic was I'd like to be a dad, but I'm not so sure
But he's not so sure he wants to be married.
That was kittens.
Yeah.
We're talking about kittens.
Well, I'm practicing on the cat first. If I can handle the cat,
Oh,
if
no,
I can
this
be
is
the
another
dad,
side of Joe
if I can be the
altogether.
dad of the cat, and it's really true. I think everybody should be a pet owner before they have a kid.
I agree.
May I speak, please? Everybody should practice on a cat or a dog first, and if you can.
But they're not the same.
Well, of course they're not the same. It's a halfway house for parenting.
But you can leave a cat alone for a week, and it doesn't need you.
That's right.
Yes, but you still are responsible for that animal's well-being.
Try leaving a bowl of kibble for a kid, okay? It just doesn't
You're
work.
halfway there. You're halfway there. When you're
What's a bowl of tricks?
It is. It's all like dog food. Come on.
You know, and cats, you don't have to change their diapers.
Everybody
either,
should have to own a cat or a dog first before they're allowed to have kids.
I don't think so.
No, I think so.
I think you are a very strange human being.
No, with all due respect.
I think
agree
people who
with
have
Joe.
animals generally
Dr.
treat them
Schlessinger
like
believes
kids,
it.
though. I do think that. I think people who don't have children but just have animals do end up treating them like children.
Being a cat daddy has brought out the father side of me that I never thought. Just call me Father Joe now.
Of course, if I had kids, I'd put them in the kennel for a week while I go on a cruise like I did with my dog recently. That's what I would do.
All right, Joe, you're scaring me. We have to take a break here. It's 3:43.
It's radical. It really is.
And this is the Meeting of the Mouths on AM 640 KFI. We're going to go to the KFI Traffic Center, find out what's shaking out there with Mark Dennis. Hi, Mark.
Hi there, Tracy. A lot of delays here. We're getting another report of a vehicle fire, some sort of a problem down here on the 405 southbound. Should be a little bit south of Santa Fe. And then on the 10, the San Bernardino eastbound approaching the 605 freeway. Couple of cars there apparently in the left lane. The 57, the Orange Freeway northbound, just...
It is 3:46 here on KFI AM 640, and you're listening to the second annual Meeting of the Mouths. I'm Tracy Miller, and the Mouths with me, Joe Crummey, Rush Limbaugh, Dr. Laura Schlessinger, Dr. Barbara DeAngelis, and Tom Leykis. We couldn't have a show without Tom Leykis. We've got so many calls for you here, and we've been reading what the callers have been calling in to ask. I am verbalizing them for you. This is funny to me. This is for Rush. Are you quoted as saying knowledge is orgasmic, Rush? Is that a quote of yours?
I think I said that
on my show.
Tom Leykis show. The
Knowledge is orgasmic. Well, he says if you are correct in your assumption that knowledge is orgasmic, does that mean that Tom is impotent?
Wow! Oh, boy, that's clever. Wow!
Ow, ow.
Intellectually impotent.
Never take calls on these things.
Okay. Now, this is slightly controversial for Tom also. Explain the double standard. You boycott Carl's, but the boycotters of Burger King are criticized by you.
I did not criticize. See, with the first hour of yesterday's show, I spent with these idiots calling in who heard only what they wanted to hear. What I said was, I was not criticizing people boycotting Burger King. They have every right to do that. Boycotts are part of America. I was criticizing Burger King for buckling to this little group of Reverend Billy Joe Bob and his group in Tupelo, and that's what I was criticizing. People can boycott anything they want to.
Okay.
I never, ever criticize anyone boycotting anything.
All right, now I'm going to do one thing here. I'm going to stray from these callers'
Can I
questions.
ask a question?
Oh, wait a
Do
minute.
you think that it was right then for the governor of Idaho to buckle to the pressure of Molly Yard?
Do I think it was right for him to buckle to the... Well, it depends on whether you think a politician should follow his heart. Now, you know what? I think a politician should follow his heart. I think that rather than going in there and serving what he thinks the constituents want and pandering to them, he should go in there and do what he thinks is right. Now, if
But he succumbed to a boycott.
I don't know what Cecil Andrus succumbed to. I don't know if that's the reason that he refused to sign that bill into law. I don't know if that's the reason. I don't know that. Do you know that Cecil Andrus is opposed to abortion?
Oh, yeah, he's very much opposed to it and was elected for that.
Well, that's what he said, but do you know how he really feels? This is a politician.
Well, you only go by what they say, and he said it very passionately.
Well, I've heard politicians say lots of things and do others.
Well, I have too, but I mean, the boycott stuff is a two-way street. I mean, there are people who...
I think people should boycott whatever they... I don't think people should spend their money on anything if they think that it violates their own principles. I think people should invest in companies that...
Okay, but you want the boycotts to work, and yet when a boycott works, you selectively get mad at a company because they succumb to it.
No, actually, I'm mad at Burger King because they succumbed to a boycott by a group group that clearly, in my opinion, doesn't have any power, doesn't have much of a following. You want to succumb to a big group. What if the state of Arizona decided to boycott Burger King? Then that would be a different story.
Well, they may not have even succumbed. Who knows if they really have pulled their advertising? They ran the ad, but they may still be advertising as dubious stuff.
Well, they may very well. But the quotes I read in Howard Rosenberg's column yesterday seemed to indicate that they were going to start going in another direction with their advertising dollars.
So it does matter. It's selective. Who the boycotters are determines whether or not it's worthwhile.
No. Only in my opinion. I'm not saying that people shouldn't boycott. I'm not saying that certain boycotts are worthwhile, other ones aren't. Only in my opinion. I think, for example, I think Burger King was stupid to buckle because I don't think this group has any power. That's what I'm saying. Do you know anybody who belongs to this group? You're a conservative. Do you belong to this group?
I don't. It's Clear TV. It's a Christian group. I don't know anybody who belongs to them.
You don't. But see now, you, in the circles in which you run, I would think if this was such a powerful group, you'd know some members. That's my point. I'm saying this group has no power, and they were faked out into believing there was some big group that was going to boycott Burger King.
They were doing a little early damage control is what they were doing. Early damage control.
I think they were stupid. I think they were stupid.
Well, right. McDonald's has buckled consistently to the environmentalists.
Consistently? First of all, they made one change.
Wrong. Well, they're buckling now to the fat content. They're going to make soy burgers.
Nobody was boycotting McDonald's in order to get them to put soy burgers out.
The threat. I mean, all these people are getting on their case. I mean, they want to be politically correct and so forth. I mean, these boycotts work. Who are the environmentalists? I mean, you're exactly right. McDonald's buckles, but there's no pressure. Burger King buckles, but there's no pressure. But you're not mad at McDonald's. You're only mad at Burger King because of the group doing the boycott. You don't like Christians.
No, because you want to know something? I'm not mad at Burger King. I thought they were stupid. I'm not mad at them. I didn't suggest, well, now everybody stop eating Burger King. I don't care. I don't eat Burger King anyway. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Not even. Oh yeah, you don't eat fish either. That's true.
No.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter. I boycott Burger King just by the nature. I don't eat what they sell.
The new lean mac, which is going to be made with seaweed, as I understand.
Yes. It's only going to have 9% fat content.
Don't put down seaweed. I ate some seaweed for breakfast this morning.
Oh, boy, we've got some heavy health people here.
It's a very sensitive issue.
Well, I
you talk about what people eat.
Well, I know there's a caller who wants to know why you're wearing leather if you're a vegetarian.
I'll answer that question. You want me to answer the question?
Go for it.
I'm going to answer. I became a vegetarian for one reason. It was health. It's not a political agenda. It's not a political issue. I'm not on that whole political agenda of save the whales and all the other things that go along with it. I did it for my health, and I am very frank and open about that. Now, someday I may stop wearing leather, but I have never pretended to be somebody who gave up meat as a political cause. I did it because I was 265 pounds, and I was afraid of having a heart attack. That's why I did it. And there's nothing inconsistent about that, but people only listen to half of what you say on the radio, so you have to keep explaining.
Have we ever heard your views on the animal rights issue here? I mean, do you support the use of animals for
I think some of it goes too far. Now, we had a show the other day where we had John Robbins, who's been on the show. He comes on about twice or three times a year, wrote Diet for a New America, and now he's got Terry Cole Whitaker following him, and she came on here and started talking about the rights of plants. I think that is preposterous. Absolutely preposterous. And people assume when I have a guest on that I agree with everything they say, and it's not true. I thought that was ludicrous. But what are you going to do?
I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a break here at 3:53 on the Meeting of the Mouths on AM 640 KFI. We'll be back. First, let's check traffic with Mark Dennis.
All right, Tracy.
It's 3:57, 3 before 4 o'clock here on AM 640 KFI. This is the Meeting of the Mouths, the second annual Meeting of the Mouths. I'm Tracy Miller. And with me, Joe Crummey, Rush Limbaugh, Dr. Laura Schlessinger, Dr. Barbara DeAngelis, and Tom Leykis. Got a call up on the screen here. Greg, your producer, just told me to check this out. It says, Tracy, how do I ask you to lunch without offending you? Which I think is kind of cute. But it brings to mind a question I have for you guys. You're going to have to answer it quickly.
Yes.
Now, for Dr. Laura, you're married, so, it's not going to be as easy for you to answer this. But what do you think of callers who ask you out? Would you go? Tom?
I have. I married one.
You married one?
Yes.
You find no problems with going out with callers?
95% of them I don't even talk to, but there is 5%. If they seem to be on my wavelength and they seem normal and they don't seem like I'm going to have boiled rabbit for breakfast.
Well, there you screwed up the one time, though, didn't you?
One time.
Yeah.
But no.
How about you, Barbara?
Well, I'm not available, so...
well, let's say you were.
I am
do the same with Dr. Laura.
so picky about dating. I think I've had 10 dates in my whole life. So I am actually very shy when it comes to that. I like knowing somebody as a friend first. Blind dates and things give me the creeps.
How about you, Dr. Laura?
No, because when they're listening to you, they have a whole fantasy number going on about who you are. And so when you're together with them, there's no reality.
Peter, and they expect you to wear some kind of underpants. And
well, that's if there's a long-term relationship. But that fantasy can be great for one night. Let me tell you.
That wasn't the question.
How about you, Rush?
Never.
You would never go out with a caller?
Oh,
never
come
have?
on.
Have you ever?
Never. Oh, yeah, I used to when I was a DJ all the time. Never, ever. That I have, as a talk show host since 1984, when I started doing talk, never,
What
ever.
about that woman who came down from Sacramento last year when you were in town?
We never heard about that. What was the upshot, so to speak? What was the
woman that
the teacher? Let's refresh your memory.
This is a man who remembers
not from
everything.
Was it Bakersfield?
Bakersfield.
Where was she from?
Bakersfield.
What happened?
One of those boring Northern California towns.
What happened? What happened?
Just lost the listeners.
Nothing happened.
But you went out with her.
I did.
Busted. All right, Joe Crummey, real quickly.
But there's a story. See, it was forced on me by the management of this station. They arranged a darn thing. They put her in the front row at the arena where I'm doing the performance. They arranged for her to be the one to bring me the condom.
Yeah.
They did.
But you didn't just have
I'm telling you, I know we're over time here, but the point is, never.
Such a powerful, influential member of the media, he couldn't even stop them from setting him up on a date. Amazing.
Never would do it.
All right, who's our next victim? Tom Leykis is our next victim host here. He's going to find out. Joe Crummey, it's a good thing I didn't have time to ask you this question because I think you have been out with callers.
Because I'll give... that's an assumption.
Yeah, well,
I'll give you an answer after the news.
Controversy about the parking lot and her showing up at 10 o'clock.
Yes, but that doesn't really count. I'll answer that later.
Why don't you go into that? We'll tease everybody with that. Tom Leykis coming up next, and thank you all. I have to go home and go to sleep now, okay? Do you mind? I'm sorry. I've had just too much fun here, but, I've been up since 2:30, and I got to do a show tomorrow morning, so thank you very much. And here's the news now from the KFI News Center.
Talk radio redefined. KFI Los Angeles, more stimulating talk radio.
Art Torres is having a very good day. Good afternoon. I'm Terry Ray Elmer in the KFI News Center with the 4 o'clock news on KFI. More on hot local politics after traffic with Mike Nolan, our KFI in the Sky.
Good afternoon. Yeah, the Santa Monica westbound and Central. Just getting word of an accident in the fast lane. That'll be on the westbound side of the Santa Monica Freeway, Central Avenue, across toward the Harbor Freeway. In Orange County, westbound 22 at the city, we've had an accident involving several vehicles. Highway Patrol reporting a problem southbound Santa Ana Freeway at Crown Valley, southbound 5, we should say, at Crown Valley, said to involve several vehicles. On the westbound side of the San Bernardino Freeway at Archibald, an accident. And if you're on the Long Beach Freeway southbound planning on using the Imperial off-ramp, the Imperial Highway, a report of an accident in the Imperial Highway off-ramp from the southbound side of the Long Beach Freeway. Mike Nolan, KFI in the Sky.
And here's what's happening in the Southland right now. KFI News Time is 4:02, and this just into KFI. In spite of weather worries, the space shuttle Atlantis is on its way to a secret military mission. Atlantis reportedly is carrying a satellite to spy on Iraq. Liftoff was flawless, although the flight had been threatened by clouds and by high winds. It is a politically profitable day for State Senator Art Torres. He is running for county supervisor. KFI's Mark Austin Thomas says 2 local politicians are giving Torres their support.
State Senator Art Torres is a man who would be supervisor. He wants to replace retiring Pete Shabaram in the redrawn 1st District. First, he got a big boost today from Supervisor Kenneth Hahn.
I know he will speak up for better health for everyone, especially the mental health program. He will be active in seeing that we have better housing, and he will be a strong voice to protect the children of this county.
Then City Councilman Richard Alatorre gave his endorsement.
He can heal, and he can bring people together. And for those reasons, I am very proud to endorse the candidacy of Senator Art Torres.
Torres will stage a visible door-to-door campaign beginning this weekend. Reporting from City Hall, Mark Austin Thomas, KFI News.
Day 1 of the Keating 5 ethics hearing in Washington is over. KFI's Jamie Dupree reports it was not a good day for California Democrat Alan Cranston.
Cranston never showed up on day 1, but Special Investigator Bennett still went after him. Using one piece of evidence here, a talk between Cranston and former Arizona Governor Bruce Babbitt.
Mr. Cranston asked, according to the governor's affidavit, asked the governor what he knew about Keating. And the governor says, right in his affidavit, he's a crook.
With Cranston there tomorrow, Counsel Bennett will spell out his full evidence on the California Democrat. It's clear Bennett believes Cranston exerted a lot of influence for Keating at the same time that big campaign donations from Keating were flowing in. In Washington, Jamie Dupree, KFI News.
President Bush is getting another letter from the nation's Catholic archbishops urging him to think long and think hard before using any military options in the Persian Gulf. Los Angeles Archbishop Roger Mahoney, who penned a previous letter to Bush, says the archbishops are concerned about the buildup of troops in Saudi Arabia.
The initial sanctions from the United Nations and authorization called for a defensive deployment, primarily to protect against Iraq invading Saudi Arabia. We have already heard in the news reports the last few days now that the president has doubled the deployment for, as he said, a possible offensive capacity.
Mahoney notes that the initial UN sanctions called for only a defensive stand in Saudi Arabia. And they're trying a new way to quit smoking at the L.A. Times. KFI's Andy Friedman reports from downtown L.A., where their new smoke-free solution involves music.
They were substituting kazoos for cigarettes in the gigantic L.A. Times building. It was the Great American Smokeout. Medical Benefits Coordinator Julie Bienenfeld says quitting for just one day could be the start of a good thing.
Well, we're particularly interested because we want to keep our employees healthy, which by doing that, you decrease absenteeism and you save money in medical costs.
The kazoos might catch on at the L.A. Times, which has followed a national trend and banned smoking in most offices. The American Cancer Society estimates more than 20 million people may have joined the Great American Smokeout nationwide. In downtown Los Angeles, Andy Friedman, KFI News.
Stocks and weather are next.